data is good, and if our officers would just be willing to take the reports. And I've asked him to put it in an email, so I don't have that yet. But basically what he said was, he says that his recommendation or suggestion was, is it possible for you guys to contact the agencies that deal with these kinds of issues, like the FCC? And I don't know if that's something that you've already tried yet, like making reports to them. Because he said that they don't have the mechanism. He said, like, there's no, in other words, they only deal with crime. And I said, well, I think that the group's saying that they feel that this is a crime. But why don't I just let him put what he said down in an email for you, and I'll share with the group. But in essence, he feels that because it's not, in his opinion, a crime that's going on, like they don't have the means to be able to take those reports. And I said, well, what you mentioned, Amy, is that some people are being hospitalized with, and I said, and he said that, and he said, I assure you that no one's being hospitalized for simply making these statements to the police. Like, the only way someone can be hospitalized or 5150 is if they were either a danger to themselves or a danger to others. And I work in the mental health field, so I know, like, they can't just, that's a weird story, I'm going to send you to the hospital. They can't do that. It has to be a very, very clear, not understanding, but it has to be very clear that this person, let's say you and I were having this conversation, and now you're like, this is going on, and you try to choke me, or I'm going to kill myself because this is going on, then they can hospitalize them. But if they're saying that if it's just, this is what's going on, I believe it's a crime, I'm hearing things, I know what I'm feeling and I'm hearing, the police officers, at least in Richmond, he says they're not going to hospitalize anybody.
That's not true. I was one, and it's many of us, and it's happening around the United States. And that's one of the reasons what we need your support to help us open that door. And to open that door is exactly what you said is happening, that he's denying that it's happening. And to help him understand that it's a lot of people that's targeted by this technology, he has to come to some agreement to acknowledge it. And once he can acknowledge it, and the police department has to be educated. Somebody in the police department has to be educated so they can understand it's a difference in someone mentally ill than one who's attacked. And that's the reason why we do not have a statistic report, because when we attack, they're trying to cover it up as under mental illness. And a lot of people who even attack, they don't know the language of it, but they say certain things happen, and they are being hospitalized. And we have over 500 people that could say this is what's happening.
In Richmond?
Yeah, not just in Richmond, but even myself. I have it on my medical records. I'm mentally ill, delusional for speaking out about what's happening. And I got to go through changes to get that change off of my medical record, but it's there because the problem is no one in the law enforcement agency is acknowledging that these things are going on, and that's why Joseph has a security firm that will be willing to help assist with this police task force protocol so that the law enforcement will not mishandle the TIs, and that's what's happening. And that's why it's being shoved to the federal government agencies, and they themselves know about the technology, but they don't want to deal with it because this is something that's covertly going on. And to stop these things, we have to put a system in place where one will acknowledge that this is happening. And the main thing needs to be done is that it cannot be shoved off to some other agency, It has to start somewhere right now to protect all citizens from being tortured and being placed in hospitals. A lot of TIs, I don't know if you remember her. She was walking 3 years ago when she came in here because she's attacked. This is considered a health issue when it's not. It's from the technology. And a lot of us are forced to be put into the hospital behind this directed energy. So it has to be broken up.
So here's the thing then, because initially when I got this, I can't read it right now. I was thinking, I wonder if you should put all of this stuff in an email and I forward it to the chief. But I'm thinking, I meet with community groups all the time who requested to the meeting for either the city manager to be there or somebody from parks or something. So in other words, I think that you all, it's your sort of, it's a right of yours to meet with officials, public officials, and the chief is an official of the city, and so I think that for maybe a meeting that either he could come or his somebody from the police department, and I think preferably him.
Yes, and we need you here too, Javanka.
So maybe that's what we need to do.
Something.
So because if you're saying, look, he's in the room, and you're like, hey, chief, look, it happened to me.
Yes.
And all we're wanting to do is this. I think it's better for it to come from you all than to come from me, because I'm getting, I'm secondhand. I'm trying to convey this information to him, and I don't think that I may be doing a good job of that. So perhaps then we would just need to have this. If you all can come back and we make sure that the chief is in the room.
Okay, but at the same time, I wanted to let them find out their roles so you can get a feel of them now, and then we can have another meeting. And could you please let him know that this meeting will not be able to move forward. This task force will not be able to move forward if he's not here to understand the concept of this transition to put this task force protocol in place. If we're missing some pieces of acknowledgement, then it's kind of difficult, because what's happening, and it has been going on all the time, the TIs have been shoved around where they get nothing done, and we need to be protected too.
Absolutely. Go ahead. Yes, please.
We brought some information here. I printed it out this morning. And this is a matter of crime. This is actually an ongoing crime. When somebody is a TI, the crime is going on right then. And it's a matter probably of jurisdiction, that no one knows exactly where this attack is originating, but a crime is in progress.
Yes,
I see.
And that, I think, actually should be put down somewhere.
Okay.
So I want to say something here. I want to make sure that we're not putting the cart before the horse. And part of that process, my name is Jesse Belcher. I'm the president of ISAC.org. I'm a retired Sacramento City firefighter paramedic. I've been involved in implementing RFP proposals and paramedic transportation programs for the city of both Elk Grove and the city of Sacramento. Not only of my experience as a first responder and understanding a lot of these dynamics, how I came into this about 4 years ago, I was a skeptic at heart. Mainly because a lot of the complaints are very subjective. And subjectiveness is something you can't touch, feel, or really prove. So with the help of Dr. John Hall, who is on the line, Dr. Edward Spencer, and a team of us, we decided to put together a plan in which we would create a forum in which individuals could come forth, and just to see if there was a concrete number, what the symptomology was there patterns that were consistent with each other. And about 3 years ago, I held a conference in Sacramento, California. I only expected a handful of people to show up. To my surprise, it was standing room only.
Wow.
Subsequent after that, we had a meeting in Davis, which it grew to about 80. And the majority of our subsequent meetings here in the East Bay and the Bay Area, each of our meetings that we have now are over 100 victims that come forth. I can tell you statistically, I have the hard numbers that approximately 500 people in the East Bay who have been willing to come forth are voicing the same types of complaints and symptoms. What I find interesting here, and I'd like to thank you for even considering meeting with Ms. Anderson with regards to this issue. I have met with our political figures in our region, and I'm not even sure if you're aware of Joe Simidian back in 2004 authored SB 362, and it was related to this specific issue, and it was signed into law by Governor Schwarzenegger in 2007, and it does make it illegal for the non-consensual
Oh, you don't know what this is
I have
about?
no idea what this is
Oh,
about.
I'm so sorry. Okay, so basically,
Targeted individuals.
so yeah, Margaret is my volunteer staff, and
Okay.
she helps me keep things in order and organized.
Okay.
And she, and remember.
Just she didn't remind you to
Right.
remind her what the
Right.
meeting was
So I
about.
forgot
Okay.
to brief her on what this was about. And so, yeah, targeted. And if you can hold
Mhm.
that thought for a moment, Amy, do you think you can give a 2-minute
Yes.
explanation?
Okay, well, I'll
of
let
what-
I'll allow
do you-
Jesse to go
Well,
ahead.
okay, because I didn't want you to mix up what
Yeah,
you're talking about.
I'm not going to mix
Okay.
up. So what we did find is that we can say through statistical data that there is a consistency.
She want to know
Oh.
what a
I have
target.
no idea
What is a
you're
targeted
talking
individual?
about.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know what
Topic
this group
matter.
is.
Right,
Okay,
right.
so-
I'm trying to take notes.
Right.
I don't know anything.
I'm going to have to let Amy define what she has.
Right,
because
her
we have a different
definition.
perspective.
Right,
We have a different
okay.
perspective.
And then we'll
on
come
it.
back to you if you can hold that thought, okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Amy, 2 minutes.
Okay. Okay. A targeted individual is one that's deemed mentally ill for speaking out and understanding that they are suffering from domestic terrorism. They be attacked with electromagnetic energy, and some of the things they deal with: losing their income, their place of employment. They
that was me.
become homeless
Me.
intentionally because they have realized that they are under these attacks with electromagnetic energy.
And what does it do to the individual?
And what
Is
it does, it burns their body, it manipulates their nervous system and causes them to be disorientated. And what happens is to help one understand what happened, if they're not educated about it, they can be easily depicted as mentally ill. Once they start being educated about it, then that's when they have the opportunity to start healing themselves and possibly constantly fighting to make people aware of what's happening versus having to fight one with these electronic technologies over their lives.
So the electronic technology
Attacks
you
the
feel
nervous
it
system.
attacks the nervous system, makes people sick. I mean, are they here? Is it like radio waves? Do
Yes,
they hear?
exactly. Transmitted to their
stuff?
body,
So they-
affecting their brain waves.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So
exactly.
does that help,
Yes.
Margaret? Sort of, kind of, and I'll
Okay.
help you.
You
Bring
know
you
what?
up a little
Actually,
bit.
Dr. Hall, do you want to give your definition? Do you want to just introduce yourself, your background, and
Thank
go
you.
ahead and define
So,
that?
Dr. Hall, from where?
Sure. Well, I'm Dr. John Hall. I'm a physician from Texas,
Okay.
and my entry into this came after dealing with a woman who was voicing these complaints in San
I
Antonio,
read about him.
who I had known for a long time and knew had no history of drug use or mental illness. So when she came to me with complaints of stalking, having symptoms of being attacked with essentially directed energy type weapons, hearing voices, weapons designed specifically to interact with the human nervous system. I took her on face value, when most physicians wouldn't have, because we've been taught to basically turnkey diagnose people with those symptoms as psychiatric cases. But I took her for at work value because I knew her. She was in her 30s, well late in life, professional, degreed, functioning normally, and then all of a sudden, overnight, was displaying these symptoms. And in the psychiatric world, that just doesn't happen. Schizophrenia, and even to some extent, delusional diagnosis. Usually, especially schizophrenia, those people start at an early age, and you kind of know they're not right early on. But this isn't the case in targeted individuals. These people usually are professionals in their late 30s, 40s when they first notice this. She came to me, spent the money, did counter surveillance, put microphones in her home, and sure enough, she was being stalked by a former FBI guy that owns a private investigative group that advertises corporate espionage and is hired out by a lot of professional people to harass a spouse or harass a competitor. They were breaking in. There were radio frequencies found emanating in and out of her condominium, and she was displaying the symptoms that I think you're probably being told about, which includes communications that are heard just inside the victim's head. Muscle twitching, muscle burning, disorientation. And while that is hard to prove, because you would have to actually have the devices to be able to demonstrate the fact that the condominium of the house is being bombarded with energy. The stalking phase, or stalking part of it, is pretty easy to prove, and was proven here when she couldn't get adequate help through the police department here. Her family had her name changed and had her moved to avoid the stalking. I changed the names of the groups that we had discovered actually doing her stalking and wrote a book about it. And to my amazement, after that book published, was immediately bombarded by sometimes 100 or 200 emails a day from people voicing not similar complaints, but exact duplicate complaints. And as a matter of fact, had several people from Dallas, Texas contact me before the book was released and had the same name of the same private investigative group with the same complaints of being harassed by that private investigative group in their town. So the group here that I counter-surveilled had actually been identified prior to me even writing the book by other individuals, which leads me to believe, and this is just my personal theory and really don't have much proof to back it up, but with it happening so widespread to so many people in every major city and even globally with the exact same methodology, that it possibly and probably is a form of experimentation. If you look sensibly at weapons that are designed to manipulate the human mind and the human nervous system, and we know those exist, the patents are out there, we know they've worked on it since the 60s. Even Vladimir Putin has came forward and said that whichever country has the best psychotronic weapons, which is the term for that, will control the globe without missiles or bullets. Said that in a speech. And it's well known that they've worked on these projects as well as our government has worked on these projects. To experiment on a captive population that is consensual with these weapons really wouldn't work, because they know what they're expecting. They know they're expecting to be burned. They know they're expecting to hear voices. What you really need to know in a weapons type experimentation is, how quickly and how badly you can degrade someone's lifestyle by having this kind of thing. And that is what's being done. So that's kind of my entry into it.
I see.
But really was shocked once I wrote the book to see exactly how many people are voicing these complaints. It's one of the most commonly complained about crimes online.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Thank you. Story.
This particular girl was not only a patient but a friend.
You have a question?